I'm Glenn Flickinger of 21st Century Consulting, and today I'm with Kevin Harvatine from Penn State University. Kevin is doing some what I find incredibly interesting and practical research on circadian rhythm. And so, Kevin, I'd like you just to, what have you seen what is it, and what have you seen?
Yeah, so circadian rhythms are just basically a natural daily pattern. So just as you wake up in the morning and you get hungry and you're active during the day, and then at night you get tired and you want to go to bed and rest, cow has the same sort of a natural drive across the day. So there's part of the day where the cow wants to come up and eat. There's part of the day she wants to go and rest. So it's basically that natural pattern. And what our interest is in how we sort of influence that pattern, and if we kind of mess up what she wants to do across the day.
So as you study this, what are some practical applications?
So I think that the biggest thing that we've really realized is that fresh feed delivery is the strongest stimulus to that cow eating. Now I guess I should mention that a lot of our interest is getting that cow to have more of a consistent rumen across the day, because we expect that makes for more stable fermentation. So that's part of the reason we feed TMRs, is that we're not slug feeding in grain. But what happens is that when that cow's eating a lot of feed during a short period of time, she's really slug eating. So what we're interested in is how we can spread that feed intake across more of the day. And what we find is that new feed delivery is our biggest thing we can do to get feed intake into a time of the day where she may normally be resting.
So there are a lot of philosophies today. It's July, it's hot and dry in Pennsylvania. What have you noticed? There are a lot of philosophies about different feeding times in the summer. What have you noticed?
Yeah, so we've done a couple of experiments where we did what I call night feeding. So it's feeding at 9 o'clock at night. And what we see is that when we feed at night, cows eat a lot of feed. So they eat 50% more in the 2 hours after feeding when we fed them at 9 at night than they did when we fed them at 9 in the morning. And then they went to bed, and they didn't eat any differently during the overnight. And they actually waited till the next afternoon, when that feed was 15 hours old, to come back and start eating at a higher rate. So what we think this is that cows were really raised on pasture, right? So they learned over time that the pasture was the highest quality during the afternoon when the sun's been shining and the sugar is highest, because that's when the plant's been growing, right? So it seems that the cow has this natural daily pattern that she prefers to eat during the afternoon and early evening time. And it's hard to break her out of that. So my recommendation on heat stress is actually try to get that cow up early. So get in with an early morning feeding. The day is cooler. Get her up and get some feed in her before the heat of the day.
And then when would you make your second drop?
So I really like the idea of a second drop around noontime. What we see in our data is that when we feed at 6 to 8 in the morning, cows eat quite a bit of feed, and then they drop off. I call it the noon siesta, that they sort of take a little bit of a break between 11, 12, up to 1 o'clock. So in that time period, getting some activity in the barn, getting cows up and eating again, and then during that afternoon period, they sort of have that natural drive to come up and eat, and so you don't have to worry about, they kind of eat to as much feed as they need through the rest of the day.
Well, Kevin, I find it incredibly interesting and fascinating, and I'm anxious to see more data as you obtain it through your research. So again, thank you for spending time with me today. I'm with Kevin Harvatine from Penn State University, and I'm Glenn Flickinger from 21st Century Consulting, and that's our opinion.